Welcome to the Prophecy Club. We are going to continue talking about mass arrests. So let me first of all just explain the whole heart of this program is to warn you of coming events in light of Bible prophecy and the modern prophets. See, I believe that God has shown me how to better recognize when He is speaking than just the typical Christian out there. In other words, in 1988, I met and spent some considerable time with Dimitri Duduman. He came to my home twice. I went to his home. We also put him on a multi-city speaking tour. In addition, my wife is also a prophet, and we've also conducted over 70 crusades in which I worked with the prophets. My wife and I have also given over 5,000 personal prophecies each. So, I came to recognize the various ways that God speaks. Now, no one is 100%, but it is my call to hear, and if needed, to interpret what God has spoken and deliver that to God's people, with the very best of my ability. I'm not 100%, but I certainly try to be. Prior to the news that evil people had cheated and stolen the election from President Trump, many prophetic words had given us a picture that Trump would be reelected and serve up justice to some 222,450 sealed indictments. This could, I say could, possibly give America another 40 years. When the election was given to J.B., from all appearances, and from except all a few fringe sources out there, it all appeared that America's hope was gone. Our hope of turning from our wicked ways and God hearing from heaven and healing our land. They were all dashed to pieces. Then, March 9th, 2021, here's what happened. Leslie and I had just had a conversation, and I believe this was God correcting me. So we just had a conversation, and we were just saying we do not see how the water could possibly arrive. One of our sources had been saying for a long time the water was not going to flow until evil international bankers were arrested, or they would just steal it all. We were seriously doubting whether the water would ever flow. Thus, we could not see how we would ever get the water to drill the oil well in Israel. So I said to her, I know. I heard the voice of God that night when He said, Stan, I will give you the money to drill the well in Israel. Somehow that will happen. So as I drifted off to sleep at 2:14 p.m. that afternoon, just shortly after that, for a nap, I was planning on making a broadcast saying Christians missed their boat. The big arrests were now not going to happen, and America would soon fall. Then at 3:17, I awakened to hear the words, massive arrests, massive arrests. Now, it wasn't dream, vision, angel visit, and it wasn't even an audible voice in my ear. I don't know how I heard it, but I know I heard it, and I heard it in my heart twice. I take this actually as a correction preventing me from bringing you information that was not exactly accurate. I got an email that said, could the arrests be that of the Christians and God-loving people, that the persecution of the Christians has begun, taking the type of administration at president we have running this country? Another email said basically the same thing. Hi, Stan. You spoke of mass arrests coming. It all depends on who is defining who the bad guys are. Christopher Wray of the FBI said that the FBI is conducting thousands of investigations into right-wing extremists, and he gives this NBCBayArea.com and is talking about extremists and how they're coming after them. He goes on to say, if mass arrests are coming, it's going to be the people on the right who support America and the Christians who are going to be arrested, not the people you've labeled as the bad guys. Well, Dave, that's what I want. And that's what I was about to make a broadcast saying. And as I look at many of the prophecies out there, that's what they appear to be saying. Now, based on the conversation my wife and I were just having, moments before we took a nap, no, the massive arrests are the bad guys. Hallelujah. It was the Lord this is my answer to the email. It was the Lord protecting me from making a full broadcast that was not going to be correct. Because I was about to say, just as I said Sunday and then another broadcast last week, that we, the Christians, missed the boat. No arrests are forthcoming. Now let me jump and just refresh your memory on a couple of prophecies you're probably familiar with. As you recall, Shane Warren was told the devaluing of our dollar caused major rioting in the streets, looting with signs saying, I want my entitlements. Well, that hasn't happened yet. Then Terry Bennett said, I saw in the governmental area that we will go through a dramatic change in our government. There will be a time of anarchy and chaos. That's happened. For a while, we'll have a fractional government. That has not happened. Fractional government, which basically means our government come down to the state level because the military has to step in and seize control of our federal government. That has not happened. Yes, the National Guard is surrounding Washington, D.C. right now, but it hasn't seized control of the federal government. He said you'd call it a coup, but in all honesty, it'll be to help our nation. That's why the military will step in. I saw lawlessness. Chaos was shown to be in civil unrest. In another place, he said that when the checks from our government stop coming to the people, the chaos will ensue. Well, there's a whole lot of talk going on out there right now with the $1.9 trillion, the $1,400 check supposed to be coming. So there's a whole lot of stuff going on with the checks. Now, the question is, what's the National Guard doing in Washington, D.C.? Are they under the control of Pelosi, Trump, or the military, or somebody else? Are they there to protect the Congress from out-of-control Trump supporters? Or are they there to facilitate the arrests of some people in D.C.? Now, the answer is, I don't know. I'd love to tell you I have some inside sources and I really know, but I don't. All I know is I heard massive arrests. And since I was about to get on and say that those massive arrests are probably going to be Christians, now I'm beginning to think not. I think he was correcting me, telling me, no, those massive arrests are still on the way. As you recall, I've said many times, August 8, 2015, I heard words, and it said, this is the time of miracles. Then God laid on my heart, as the judgment hits, so will my miracles. Let me say it again, because that's a key. As the judgment hits, so will my miracles. Miracles greater than anyone has seen going back to Adam and Eve. Tell my people, I will never leave them nor forsake them. I will meet the devil inch for inch, step for step, pound for pound. I will meet the devil at every turn. Now, the point is, as the judgment hits, so will my miracles. Well, then Coverstone was told by the angel, Passover 2021. Big things are coming for the world. Big things are coming for the world. Now, is that the arrests? Is that the new quantum financial system coming online, kicking the cabal out? I don't know. I can tell you what I want. I would like to see that a bunch of bad guys got rounded up. I'd like to see a new financial system comes in where the cabal or the Moloch and the Baal worshipers are kicked out of our financial control. I'd like to see that. Do I know that's going to happen? No, I don't. But that is, my brothers and sisters, what we need to be praying. Now let's jump to something else. HalTurnerRadioShow.com, March 10th. Headline, Happening Now. Intense signals intelligence aircraft deployment by Israel. For the second day in a row, the Israeli military has launched what even seasoned observers are calling intense signals intelligence aircrafts. These planes are generally used immediately prior to an attack mission. Possibly war between Russia and the U.S.-backed Ukraine to forcibly take Russia-friendly Oblast provinces and states of Luhansk and Donetsk. Now, could it be that there is about to be something big happening? And could it be that Israel knows it? And that when all of these arrests take place, there's a bunch of chaos. And so Israel goes over and does something it feels it needs to do. But there's more. Hang on. And let me give you a disclaimer before I even read this. I do not know. I do not have any inside information. All I have is a Bible and a big stack of prophecies from people I believe are hearing from God. This particular article comes to us from USA Today, and the headline is going to shock you. If you have not already heard this, and many of you probably already have, but it says, the claim that the U.S. Navy SEALs, acting under the direction of former President Donald Trump, arrested former Secretary of State, I won't even say her name, H.C. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Former Democratic presidential nominee H.C., this is what the article says, this USA Today, okay, is the target of a conspiracy theory that claims she was arrested in New York by Navy SEALs acting on former President Donald Trump's orders. The claim by the website Real Raw News, quote, a source in Trump's orbit, is saying that Trump turned over supposedly incriminating evidence about C that led her to her arrest. Quote, under cover of darkness, by an 8-person team. C was taken to an undisclosed location before she was moved to Guantanamo Bay to face a military tribunal. The website wrote in a post that was shared across social media, including on Facebook, and they say, there is no evidence. Now hear that because we're going to talk about that in a second. There's no evidence that C was arrested, and Trump has no control or role in the U.S. military as a former president. Real Raw News calls itself apolitical. Quote, we have no dog in the fight, as they say, unquote. But it peddles pro-Trump conspiracy theories. By the way, I think it's real funny how the left always calls what the right can't prove conspiracy theories. See, the left is real good at doing bad things, but they're also real good at covering them up. But the right, by the Spirit, sometimes we know things, but we can't prove them. Have you ever met somebody and you just knew that they were just evil, but you couldn't prove it? Well, that's what happens a lot of times. So the left is always saying, you got to prove it, you got to prove it. Now, hang on to that because that's going to be important in a second. See, the left is always hollering, we want evidence, we want evidence. But then, do you remember a fellow by the name of Adam Schiff? How for 2 or 3 years, he kept saying he had seen evidence that Trump committed an impeachable offense with no evidence, and yet we're supposed to believe him. So the Dems demand evidence. So now the Dems are demanding evidence that C has been arrested. Yet Adam Schiff, for 3 years, could point fingers at Trump, saying he committed an impeachable offense. I've seen the evidence. Yet there was no evidence ever presented, and yet he can get by with that. Now, back to the article. No evidence C was arrested. Real Raw News claims C was arrested on the night of March 2. As the first domino to fall in Trump and the military's takeover of the, now listen to these words, deep state cabal, spelling C-A-B-A-L. That word means cabal, that means of ball, as in B-A-A-L. That word and that statement is actually accurate. In other words, the people that worship Moloch and Baal, this is the deep state. This is the Khazarian Mafia. These are people going back 2,500 years that are some of the most evil people on the planet. And a short way of referring to them is the cabal, C-A-B-A-L. And it means of B-A-A-L. You remember Baal. Baal, that was a cow god. They built a fire under the hands of the cow god and then would put their little babies up and basically cook their babies in sacrifice to Baal. Did the same thing with Moloch. So these are people that actually believe in human sacrifice. Now, not everybody, but the people at the very top. People in the know. You know what I'm talking about? They talk about Q as a conspiracy theory, yet they have no evidence. So are we requiring evidence or not? If we are, then Adam Schiff should have never said, I have seen evidence that Trump committed an impeachable offense. If we're not requiring evidence, then perhaps we should consider whether HC has really been arrested. Now, the answer is, again, I'm going to say it again. I'll give you a disclaimer. I do not know. I do not know the answer. Now, we're going back to the article, but it proves no evidence of C's arrest, citing only an anonymous source in, quote, Trump's orbit. No credible mainstream organization. All right, let's talk about that. Credible mainstream media organization. That's kind of a dichotomy, okay? That's kind of like a play on words because there is no credible mainstream media organization. We know we're constantly lied to, and if we're going to try to find any truth at all, we have to stay away from the, quote, credible mainstream media organizations because all of the credible mainstream media organizations have all been owned and infiltrated by evil in high places, including Fox News. You can't get anything from Fox News anymore. So let's go on with the article. No credible mainstream media organization has reported that C was arrested. So why not call and get evidence? Why not call C and say, hey, we need a picture of you standing holding today's newspaper in a busy public place to prove that you are in existence? I mean, it's called proof of life, okay? So why don't they, if they're saying, well, we don't have proof, then why don't they just go get proof? For them, it only takes a phone call. Just call C and say, hey, go get today's paper, get somebody to take a picture of you standing in a public square, someplace where you can see people walking in the background. That will prove what. Get evidence. So why don't we say, you get the evidence? Why don't you prove she's free? Good question. Let's go on. The article says Clinton was also scheduled to appear on March 8th at multiple virtual. Well, you see, that's not credible. Just because it's virtual does not necessarily, because that can all be computer generated. Virtual events for International Women's Day. That afternoon, she participated in a live chat with the Washington Post. Not credible. That evening, she was to participate in a virtual fund. So all of those are supposedly three things that proves, in my opinion, no, they don't prove. They don't prove that she's out and free. Trump doesn't control the military. Biden does. I would say, can you prove that? Can you prove that Trump did not sign something someplace behind the scenes, under the table, somewhere where he legally still has control of the military? Or some people from the conspiracy theory group of people say that actually he turned control of the country over to the military. So neither Biden nor Trump is in control of the military. Do I know the truth? No, I don't. I don't. But what I am saying is I'm tired of so much garbage floating around out there, and we can't get the truth. I just want the truth. Give me the truth. Back to the article. The conspiracy theory espoused by Real Raw News also suggests that Trump holds power with U.S. military. Previous fact checks have debunked conspiracies that the former president was pulling strings within the military. Well, now this is my comment, other conspiracy theories from the right say Trump signed control of the nation over to the military. Okay, so why don't you prove or disprove that? Now let's go on back to the article. The U.S. Constitution dictates that the president is commander-in-chief of the military. Scholars agree that the clause ensures civilian control over the military be placed in the hands of a single person. Okay, so they're saying that we are under the Constitution and we have to follow the Constitution. Well, I thought we were not following the Constitution any longer, because if we are following the Constitution, then why didn't the Supreme Court hear the case between Texas and the 13 states versus those 6 cheating states? And they should have ruled about what was correct concerning the election. Also, the 6 states which violated the Constitution, changed their voting procedures within the last month or so, should have been stopped if we were following the Constitution. And the third point is the second impeachment of Trump, if we're under the Constitution, should have never taken place, because according to them, you can't impeach a private citizen. Trump was already out of office. According to them, you have to have one of the Supreme Court justices, the Supreme Court justice, presiding over the impeachment. They didn't have that either. So it seems to me like we're not really under the Constitution, because you can't use the Constitution sometimes and not all the time. Either we are always under the Constitution or we are never under it. My answer is, as I've been saying, we have not been under the Constitution since sometime in November. See, it is the Supreme Court that removed us from being under the Constitution by refusing to follow it concerning the 2020 election. So you can't turn around and throw the Constitution at us if you're not going to abide by it all the time. Back to the article. Congress certified President Joe Biden as the winner of the 2020 election on January 6th, and Biden was sworn in during a public inauguration January 20th. USA Today has debunked conspiracy theories that Biden's inauguration was faked. Has it? Because I continue to have people sending me various videos out there that shows pretty convincing evidence to the contrary. Back to the article. That means Biden, not Trump, controls the military. I'm going to say, yeah, that is if we're under the Constitution, and if Trump did not assign the whole nation under the control of the military. Now, back to the article. The claim that the U.S. Navy SEALs, acting under former President Donald Trump's direction, arrested HC in New York is false, they say. Trump has no authority within the military because he lost the 2020 election. Well, again, I agree if he lost the election and if we're still under the Constitution. But since we're not under the Constitution, On with the article. President Joe Biden, not Trump, took office on January 20th and is now Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. military. There is also no evidence that C was arrested, and she was set to appear March 8th at a virtual fundraiser with House Speaker Nancy Pelosi benefiting their political action committees. Okay, again, if HC is still free, then let her give us proof of life. Get us a photograph of HC holding up today's newspaper in a public place. I mean, like Times Square or down at her local, any place where people are walking by with something that'll prove that is not a staged thing, that is not photoshopped, okay? Give us proof. I mean, they want proof from us. About time we turn around and say, give us proof. So my point today is, if HC is really free and not in Guantanamo Bay, then have her hold up today's newspaper in a public place, put up a photograph. And you can't just interview her on some station someplace because they have computers these days to make that all appear real when there's no one there. Just for the fun of it, let's go to another article. There's at least 3 out there that are severely attacking this whole thing, saying, no, HC has not been arrested. Okay, well, if she's not been arrested, then why even take your time to try to debunk it? I mean, most of the news organizations choose not to tell us the things that they don't want to tell us. But in this case, at least 3, and there's by now probably lots of websites out there debunking this whole thing, that HC has been arrested. So if she really hasn't been arrested, why are you attacking this so hard? Why are you going out of your way to prove that she's not been arrested? Now let's go to Snopes, or Snoops, I think is the way you pronounce it. Snoops.com, Snopes.com. Headline, did Navy SEALs arrest, and I'm only going to say the initials, HC. A post claims Navy SEALs broke into former Secretary of State's home and tranquilized her. March 6. On March 2, 2021, U.S. Navy SEALs arrested HC on suspicion of treason. On March 4, a website attempting to pass a credible news outlet alleged U.S. military forces has arrested former Democratic Secretary of State HC under the direction of former Republican President Donald Trump. Under the heading reading, quote, Navy SEALs arrest HC, who unsuccessfully ran against President Trump for the presidency in 2016. The website is called Real Raw News, claimed, quote, the chant, lock her up, has finally seen fruition. U.S. Navy SEALs loyal to Donald Trump raided HC's, I'm going to say where here, arrested her on charges of treason, destruction of government property, and aiding and abetting the enemy. Real Raw News has learned. Now, let me pause here. Let me say it again. Let me give you a disclaimer. I do not know the truth. I do know that I heard the words massive arrests, massive arrests. I know I heard that. Now, what that means, how far that's going to go, when that kicks in, remember the angel spoke to Coverstone, said, Passover 2021, big things are coming for the world, big things are coming for the world. Back to the article. Now, again, this is Snoops.com. The arrest happened on Tuesday night, according to a source in Trump's orbit. Only hours after Trump had spoken to Rear Admiral, I'm going to say that name, and given him a mammoth trove of evidence of C's criminality dating back to her days in the State Department. Citing only the unnamed source, the Post alleged 8 members of the, quote, Naval Special Warfare Group broke into C's home, found her rehearsing a speech in a mirror, and used a tranquilizer dart to sedate her, and has been surveilling C's for a long time, and they knew that she was always alone on Tuesday nights. That's when the SEALs nabbed her, our source supposedly said. The Post appeared to be a fan fiction inspired by some Trump supporters' long-stemming petitions for Clinton's prosecution. First, at the time of the alleged arrest, Trump did not have authority to direct any federal department or branches of the country's armed forces, including the SEALs, because his successor, President Joe Biden, had taken the presidential oath of office roughly 1 month prior. That inauguration stripped Trump of his abilities to help coordinate military operations as the country's commander-in-chief. So they say. But again, I heard massive arrests. Massive arrests. And I don't think that's Christians, not with the conversation we had before. At least not yet. It could be like both of them. There's a lot of arrests on both sides. Okay, so let me get to the point here. I think that the Christians have got to be praying. We've got to be praying for our protection. We've also got to be praying that God will bring justice and judgment to our nation. And of course, the Bible says judgment begins at the house of God. So we've got to pray that judgment begins at the house of God. But the house of God in high places is extremely filthy and dirty and does need a cleaning. And if we're going to have any more years as a nation, we've got to pray that God will bring justice and judgment and sweep our nation clean, beginning with the house of God. And that's the way I continue to pray. I want to see America do well, and the way that's going to happen is if we can get America to turn from the wicked ways, and the way that's going to happen is if these 222,450 sealed indictments are served justice. Imagine a friend emailing you all excited, telling you that they're at the Sevenfold Miracle Crusade and people are being turned away by fire marshal orders because so many people are coming from miles around. People hungry to receive the Lord, arriving saying, God told them the address in a dream. Another just impressed to drive to this spot. Revival has arrived. Would you desire to be at this kind of meeting? Then go to sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com and get signed up to be there. sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com, March 27 to 30. sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com. sevenfoldmiraclecrusades.com. When a nuclear device goes off, it produces an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse, and it fries every computer chip unless they're protected. The good news is EMPshield.com has devices a military testing facility says are 100% accurate to protect against EMP, solar flares, lightning, power surges backed by a 10-year warranty and a $25,000 insurance policy. And they come with simple installation instructions for home, vehicles, RV, and electric generators. You can have electricity in a blackout. EMPshield.com. Use the promo code PROPHECY for a $50 gift card. This helps Prophecy Club. That's EMPshield.com. Promo code PROPHECY for a $50 gift card. EMPshield.com. EMPshield.com. Whether you are pre-trib, mid-trib, or pre-wrath, or post-trib, whatever your position is, this book will help you to find the truth. If you're really looking for the truth about the rapture, I honestly believe you will find it in this book. It'll settle in your spirit because the truth is the Holy Spirit knows the truth about the rapture. And one of the reasons that the people other than post-trib can't seem to find peace about this is because the Holy Spirit is trying to tell them that they don't have the truth. That is, until they find post-trib. But either way, this is going to help you to find the peace about the rapture. I really recommend you get it. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 10. 1 for 20, 10 for 30, and 20 for 50 at prophecyclub.com. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 10 for 30, 20 for 50, give you extras to give to your friends. Because once you read this one, you're going to be handing this to your pastors, to all of your Christian friends, and just ask them to read it. If they get through the first chapter, they're going to read the whole book, and they're going to love it, and it's going to help them to really find the truth about the rapture. How Pre-Trib One at prophecyclub.com. CornerstoneAssetMetals.com is owned by a prophecy student who reads his King James Bible and supports Prophecy Club. Call CornerstoneAssetMetals.com for gold, silver, palladium, rhodium bars, or coins that can help you roll over your IRA, 401k. So tell CornerstoneAssetMetals.com Prophecy Club sent you. In 2017, God blessed me by helping me to memorize the book of Revelation just as a simple project. God showed me a secret door, which is based upon a single word found in Revelation and Leviticus, linking the feasts to the prophecies. When linked, a person enters into an understanding of Bible prophecy not previously known. Even though I've been in the world of Bible prophecy for 40 years, frankly, I did not know anything of what is in this book. One prophetic word described it this way: there is a lock that I have put over a word in the book of Revelation that I'm going to open to you. It will turn so many books written on the end-time message into obsolete books. That's this book. 2 amazing prophecy charts on the back flap, 12 inches by 9 inches. Imagine a book on prophecy that brings a fresh, new, accurate perspective. We offer them in shrink-wrap sets of 5. 1 for 20, but don't do that. 5 for 35 or 10 for 60. That's 1 for 20, 5 for 35, or 10 for 60 at prophecyclub.com.